Let's get to work. If you have the blue playground ball and a red band, go ahead and get those. And if not, you can simply grab onto a dish towel just like Karen's gonna show us. The ball's gonna go halfway between your knees and your hips, and the red band is gonna come in a single stretch overhead. If that doesn't feel great on your shoulders, simply soften the elbows until you can get them melting down the back line of your body. We're gonna go straight into some pliés. That means we keep our torso upright as we exhale and soften the knees. The sternum stays over the pubic bone. We're sticking out our booty just a little bit. Inhale as we narrow to rise. Exhale, and that ball or the inner thighs are gonna spiral forward on the way down. And then on the inhale, we're narrowing through the pelvis as we lift to raise back up to start. We're gonna do just 2 more and then start in with some side bending, holding that plié. So we're exhaling down. Hold that plie. Make sure that we are not squishing the ball if you do have it. And now we're going to bend to the left. So we are going to inhale. We're fanning the right side of the ribs, keeping lots of length on both sides of the waistline. Exhale through center. Inhale as we arc to the opposite side. Now your hands may have started creeping forward a little bit. That's okay if that feels better for your shoulders. Otherwise, try to keep them in line with your ears as you alternate side to side. Inhaling as we arc. Exhaling through center. Now, I don't know about you, but I started rising up out of that plie a little bit, so keep those knees soft. Keep the challenge going from head to toe. On the next one, let's center it out. So we're now overhead, and we're gonna do an up and over. So that's an exhale on the way down. On the inhale, we're gonna bring the arms up and overhead, stretch the band or the towel out a bit, and then exhale as we lower behind the back. So this really helps with scapular and shoulder mobilization. If it doesn't feel great for your body, you can bend the elbows or you can stop overhead rather than going through the full rotation behind. You still in that plie? Keep those knees bent and all 4 corners of the feet melting into the floor. We're gonna do just a few more here. Inhaling as we raise up, exhaling as we narrow the corset and lower that band. Last one, inhaling, band comes up and over. Exhaling, narrow the corset. Last time, up and over, coming forward, and complete. Now we're gonna go right into our roll-ups. So we're going to sit down on our bottom on our mat, somewhere near the center. You can keep that ball halfway between the knees and hips. And we're gonna take that red band and wrap it around our back, just beneath the shoulder blades, or keep that dish towel in front of you. Once that band is there, we're gonna cross it once around the rib basket, and that's gonna help us find our breath. From here, the legs are gonna go long, and we're gonna find our best L sit we can manage, sitting tall on those sitting bones. Plug the arms into the back line of the body, and lean 2 inches with a flat back. Hold. Do you feel the deep abdominals catching on? Anyone else find them? I found them. All right, now we're gonna roll the tailbone under, roll the low back, roll the mid back, and roll the upper back. Whoosh! I start to drop in at that top part. Did you see that? So the aim is to try to keep things as even all the way up and all the way down as you can. Lean with a flat back, rolling through with control as you slowly lower down and return back up. So we're flexing the spine, warming things up as we raise. Lean with the flat back, roll the tailbone under, roll the low back, roll the mid back, upper back. Arms are plugged into the shoulders, and that red band is helping us breathe out the sideline of the body. Exhaling down. Last one. We're gonna roll all the way up, and then we're gonna go into a teaser hold. Now we're at the top. Bend the knees, walk the knees back in, keep the ball if you have it. You can kind of reconnect to those red bands or loop them around if you'd like to. And now we are going to go into flexion. So that means we're gonna roll the tailbone under us a little bit. And we're gonna float the knees up into a tabletop position. So you wanna get the knees pretty close to the chest, and we're gonna go into a torso rotation here. So we're gonna rotate to the left first. This is an inhale. And notice that the rib basket is the initiator of the movement, not the arms, and not the head. Come back to center on an exhale. Inhale the rib basket to the right. Exhale, bring it to center. Try to keep your toes at the same height. We're just rolling through that rotation. Inhaling to the left. Exhale through center. If that feels as aggressive, Karen's gonna show us her hands behind her thighs. You can just ditch that towel and you can hold the hands behind the thighs as you rotate side to side. 3 more. Finding that length even in the curl. Last 2. Last one, we gotta do the full set to make it count. Rotate to the left, center, to the right, and bring it down. Awesome, let's ditch that band for a few minutes. And we're gonna take that ball and place it behind the crook of your right knee. So go ahead and flip right over on your mat. And we're gonna take that ball, if you have it, and place it behind the crook of the right knee and coming onto our hands and our knees. We're in a 4-point kneel, shoulders are over the wrists, and knees are directly below the hips. Now straight away we want to find length through the crown of the head, all the way lengthening through the tailbone. Broaden the collarbones to lift away from the mat. And we're going to float that right leg up. And we ideally want it at the same height as our hip, but that's not required. If that causes you to shorten the low back, don't go that high. And go as high as you can, keeping your body organized. Now we're going to flex that right foot and go directly into a donkey kick. So you can even glance down at your pelvis and make sure that your hips are level, because it's real common for the hips to kind of wobble side to side. You can see that Brandon has a really nice opening on the front side of this hip, and his movement comes from the crease of his glam line, right where the glutes and hamstrings meet. Isn't that nice? And we're gonna nod the chin to elongate the spine all the way through the tailbone. And Karen's showing us the version without that ball. I'd like you to think about that knee really staying directly in line with the hip. It's a tiny change, but it makes all the difference. Can you feel that difference in that inner thigh? And then it comes across to the opposite waistline. We're gonna hold the next one up. We're gonna hold it here and go into a small rotation as the femur head swimming through the dome of the pelvis. So it's a tiny little circle of that right thigh bone, right? So the femur head is like a ball and socket joint, and it's simply swimming through the dome of the pelvis. The pelvis is not moving. Let's change direction. We're lubricating that joint. Changing direction of that little tiny circle. Last 3. Draw the navel up and in. Last 2. And bring that leg all the way down. If you have the ball, we're going to keep it in our hand. We're just going to skip it for this next exercise. So we're going to come onto our left forearm, or you can come all the way down onto your left bicep and your left side. So it's entirely up to you what works better for you. We're going to bend the bottom leg, and we're going to go into a lateral raise of that right leg. So get your hips stacked, and we're going to keep that right leg long as we extend and lift. So it's just a little crease at the outer line of the hip. We don't want to raise the leg so high that we drop the waistline into the floor. Do you feel the heat building up through that outer hip? Anyone? All right. Awesome. We're reaching that inner thigh long, thinking about that waistline helping to narrow and stabilize the pelvis while that right leg moves. We're going to do 3 more and change it up. We're going to use the ball next. Last 2. Last 1. Hold here. Take that ball. Once again, it goes halfway between the knees and the hips. And now the knees are in alignment. Karen's showing it to us without the ball, so it's actually even a little bit harder that way without that support there. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn that femur head and rotate it internally. So my inner thigh is going back, back, back. And then I'm thinking about that femur head, that thigh bone, turning like a doorknob, and now my inner thigh is shining straight forward. My pelvis didn't move, my waist didn't drop, and that ball is going to move a little bit with you. So the ball is going to swivel. We don't want to mash the ball. We're barely touching it. It's just keeping us honest and keeping us aligned as we work. My leg wanted to go back. How about yours? It's trying to get out of here. Swiveling via the femur head, lengthening the waistline both sides. We're going to go into some clamming after 2 more rotations either direction. And bring that in. All right, so ball or no ball, either way works, but we're going to take the ball behind the right knee if you have it. The left leg is imprinting into the floor, the big toes are touching, and they're up off the ground. Recommit to lengthening the waistline with the neutral pelvis, and we're going to narrow and close the upper inner thighs. And now that top inner thigh is spiraling open, and that's how we get the clamming movement. So please don't initiate from the knee. It is not about how far the knee tracks. If we track so far that the knee opens and the hip drops behind us, that's too far, and we're gonna skip that beautiful work through the glute med, through the pelvic floor, inner thighs, and into the waistline. We're really gonna lose a lot of that if we drop back. You should be balancing on your bottom hip bone. So we're keeping the big toes connected with intention. Inhaling as that top inner thigh spirals forward, exhaling as it closes. We're gonna do 3 more of these. Last 2. And last 1. Go ahead and close the legs, rise on up. If you have the ball, just set it aside for a few moments. We're gonna go straight into our Wunda twist. So take your hands to the front edge of the mat, and we're gonna place the left foot in front of the right. Shift the shoulders over the wrists and swivel the pelvis so that it's shining to the side of your mat. On your next inhale, we're gonna pike up and shift our weight back as the pelvis rotates towards the mat. That's an inhale. Exhale as we swivel, the shoulders come back to start and the pelvis spirals forward. We want to make sure we don't hang down into that hip, so keep that line nice and clean. Inhaling as we swivel on the balls of our feet up and back. Exhaling as we come back to start. We're going to do 1 more of that full range of movement. Inhaling up and back. Exhaling as we come back to start. Hold. Now what we're going to do, gang, is keep the hips at the same height. We're not going to pike anymore. We're going to exhale as the weight shifts back and the knees bend. So now my shoulders are behind the wrist, the knees are bent, but I didn't raise my hips up at all. And then it's an inhale to find and return to that length, that starting position. Exhale as we narrow the corset, magnetize the outer thighs and shift the weight back. Inhale as we return to start. Exhaling as we shift back. Inhaling as we return to start. Last 2. Last 1. Come all the way back to find length and go ahead and bring the knees down. We're going to transition into our plank on our forearms. So hands come flat onto the mat. We're about shoulder width distance, and step your legs back in a closed parallel position. No light between our knees and toes. Before we get started, lift away from the elbows, fill the mid-back with breath, lengthen the back side of the neck, and narrow the outer hips. Without changing any of that, we're going to soften one knee and tap the ground with our right knee, and bring it back to 2 straight legs. Tap the ground with the left knee, and bring it back to 2 straight legs. So as we're doing this movement, going onto our forearms gives us a little break on our wrists, but guess what? It cranks up the core challenge because we have a shorter lever and there's no hanging out in the joints. You'll notice that what Brandon's doing here is keeping the pelvis and the shoulders really quiet, and that movement is coming from the femur bones rotating again and holding that isometric, really sincere challenge. We're gonna do 1 more on either side, and then we're gonna go straight into the Wunda twist on the other direction. And go ahead and bring it all the way down. Gorgeous, you guys. All right, let's come on up. We're gonna flip it over and have our hands on the other side of the mat for our Wunda twist on the right. So hands are at the edge of the mat. You guys still with me?
Yeah.
Hanging tough, all right. We're gonna have the right foot in front of the left, starting in that rotated plank position. Check your hips, are they hanging down? Really make sure we're in a beautiful line. Exhale to prepare. Inhale, swivel the pelvis. Think about fish hooks, drawing it up and back at a diagonal, not straight up to the sky. And then we're gonna inhale as we unwind back to start. Good. So we're nice and long here. I think I just asked you for 2 inhales back to back. That's gonna be a tall order. So let's do some cross training of our breath, shall we? So let's inhale on the length here. And let's exhale, narrowing the corset as we rise, bringing it up and back. There's really no wrong way to breathe, my friends. It's all about continuing to breathe in your movement. Let's hold that next plank with the rotated pelvis, so the hips shine to the side. And now we're going to soften the knees. Let's do an inhale here. We did an exhale on the other side. And then we'll exhale as we return, narrowing the corset. Inhale, traction the crown of the head away from the tailbone as the knees bend. Exhale as we bring it back to start. Magnetizing those outer thighs. The right waistline is really going to want to shorten up, really fight against that. This is the last two. All the way long, and bring the knees down. All right, let's get that sideline work done on the other side. So we're gonna get the ball, if we have it, because we're gonna do it in reverse. We're resting on the right bicep, the bottom right leg is bent, and we're going to go straight into clamming. So the ball goes behind the crook of the left knee, the big toes are touching, and we are going to, where are my toes? I can't find them. Anyone else have trouble finding their feet today? And we are going to narrow the upper inner thighs, keeping the pelvis nice and long. And then we're gonna inhale as we open, exhaling as we close. So I just lost my ball. If you've lost yours, just keep working and you can either grab it for the next exercise or don't worry about it. It's really common, not only if you're getting a little sweaty, but also if the muscles just start fatiguing, you can grab it for the next one. We don't wanna waste time chasing it down in the middle of a sequence. So we're going to keep those big toes touching, lengthen through the waistline. That bottom leg is not getting a break, guys. It really should be imprinting down into the mat. Both sides of the waistline are long. The toes touching give us that closed kinetic energy chain to really feel the connection between the pelvic floor, deep abdominals, inner thighs, all the way to the soles of our feet. And we're gonna do one more. And break. Awesome. So we're going to keep that right leg down. The ball goes halfway between our knees and our hips if you have one. And we're going to extend that left leg long. Now we're going to swivel that inner thigh back. And then we're going to swivel that inner thigh forward. So it's like we're turning a doorknob that is actually the top of our thigh bone. Lengthen the waistline both sides. Keeping the hips stacked. Because when we start to rotate, sometimes the hips can start to do little wonky things rolling forward or back. That's why I like to keep my hand on my hip as long as the elbow doesn't draw the shoulder back. We're going to do two more full rotations here. So here we go, internally and externally. Last time, we're turning that femur head internally. Reach, reach, reach the waistline long. Reach, reach, reach that inner thigh long. And externally, keep the leg up. Return it to parallel. And now we're going to sweep it back in line with the hip. So now going out to your hip, you want no crease on the front side of your pants. Foot is parallel, leg is long, and we're going to do that lateral lift. Think about that inner thigh reaching longer than it has before. And did you notice that connected you to your waistline? Creasing at the outer line of the left hip. Ribs are not invited to drop. Last three. Last two. And last one. Now we're going to come straight up into that 4-point kneel on the other side. I guess that ball's close enough that I need to take it again. So we're going to place that ball behind the crook of your left knee if you have it. Come into that 4-point kneel, and then it becomes a 3-point kneel when that left knee comes in line with the hip. Flex the left foot, and now we're going to start with the circling of the femur head through the socket. So you can glance down and check if your hips are level. Think about reaching the right sits bone back and lifting away from the ground as we're circling that left femur head through the dome of the pelvis. Let's go ahead and change direction of that circling. We're lubricating that joint, improving the functionality as we tone from the core, crisscrossing the pelvic floor to the inner thigh and glutes and hamstrings. Think about reaching that knee long. Let's hold parallel, and we're going to reach that left knee long as we increase the little line at the glam line. So we're deepening the crease of the glam line. That's right where the glutes and hamstrings meet on the left leg. So we're deepening that crease. Now check in with your right hip. For me, I was noticing that I was kind of leaning into that right hip. Try not to hang out in that hip. And do you feel how the core has to turn on more to really keep us in that aligned position? Let's go 4. Let's go 3. Last 2. And bring it down. If you have the ball, you can set it aside. We're done with it for today. And we're gonna take that red band and place it under our knees, about 4 inches apart. Once you're there, you're gonna wanna give it a little loop around the hands once. And then we're gonna bring our hands into prayer position. So my legs are parallel, the front side of the hips are open, and I'm going to rotate to the right with the rib basket. So don't start with the hands, please. We're gonna rotate the ribs, and the hands track in the center of your chest, and then we bring it back. The pelvis is gonna wanna go with you, but it's not invited to this party. It's gonna stay quiet as we rotate the ribs on an inhale. Exhale, bring it back to center. So that band is giving me a lot of nice traction, keeping the shoulder blades melting down the spine, and a lot of challenge as I resist and rotate. You feel that happening, Brando? Inhaling as we add space between the vertebra for that rotation, exhaling back to center. We're gonna do 3 more, and then we're gonna go right into a lunge. Exhale back to center. Last 2. And last 1. Come back to center. We're gonna keep the band, just unwind it. And let's step up to the front side of the mat. We're going into a lunge on the left leg. So if you have that band, we're gonna put it under the arch of the left foot and take a natural step back. You can loop that band around again if you'd like. And now we're gonna bend both knees. Don't worry about the arms yet. Just bend both knees, keeping the torso upright. And then we're gonna inhale as we narrow through the pelvis to raise. On that left knee, we want it creeping in front of the ankle over the foot island and aligned with big toe, second toe. The gaze is forward. That's gonna help us keep our nice, beautiful posture line. And we can add the arms on this next one. As the knees bend, we're gonna send the arms up to the side in a rowing movement. And then we're going to inhale as we narrow through the pelvis to raise. I like to think about an imaginary magnet or spring in between the inner thighs, and that's actually helping me to raise and resisting on the way down. That helps to find the midline of the body rather than just the superficial glutes. Think about narrowing that left sits bone up and in, and let's hold the next one down. Holding low, and now we're going to just do a small row out to the sides. I like to think about maybe elbowing my neighbor a little bit. Keeping length, the collarbones are chasing the elbows wide. Think about a sandbag hanging off of that left hip so we don't hike it up and shorten the waist. Last 4. Last 3, we've got some bridges coming up. Last 2. And last 1, come all the way up. We're gonna keep that red band if you have it, and let's lay down on our backs. But before you lay down, get that red band, loop it behind the shoulder blades, and we're just gonna do 1 set of bridges here with both feet on the ground. Arms come long, and we're about 4 inches apart. So this looks like a leg exercise from the outside, but you're gonna feel a deep core connection here. We're gonna take the hips up off the floor just by 1 inch or 2, and the pelvis is neutral. So you should almost feel like you're kind of hanging on your femur bones, almost like a puppet sensation. The arms are long and the collarbones are broad. Now we're gonna exhale and tap the tailbone to the floor. It's a small distance. And then we're gonna use the corset narrowing to bring the pelvis up. Keep it nice and neutral. It's tapping down. And now the transverse abdominis, the deep abdominal muscles that run across the front side of the low belly. That is what is raising us and narrowing like a corset all the way to the multifidus. So at your own pace, we're raising and lowering. And we're not flexing the spine at all. It's a nice flat back. And you can feel as you raise, you can feel the vertical tone of the transverse abdominis, and all the way down, you have a horizontal tone happening as you get the deeper flexion through the deep abdominals, right? So on the screen, it's like, oh, it's all about the legs and hamstrings, but in your body, pretty confident you're feeling that wrap all the way to the back side of the spine, the multifidus that helps stabilize the spine. We're gonna go just a few more here, and then hit that lunge on the other side. Last 2. And bring the pelvis all the way down. Let's finish that lunge on the right. So we're gonna step to the top of the mat. Keep the red band if you have it. It goes under the arch of the right foot. And then we're gonna step that left leg back. This time we're gonna come into a wide V with that band. So we're gonna exhale as we lower down, both knees bend. Inhale as we bring it up. Exhaling as we lower down. Inhaling as we raise. Now you can see that Brandon has a larger range of movement than I do. My hands are lower than his are, and that's fine. Do what works for you and your body. We just want to make sure we're not crowding the shoulders. And we want to make sure we're also not leaning back as we send the hands out. So we don't want to lean back to compensate for the hands coming up at all. We want to keep the sternum right over the pubic bone. Come forward a tiny touch more for me. Beautiful. Feel the low belly turn on even more in that way. Exhaling down, inhaling, lifting through the waistline. And you can see that Karen's got a beautiful flow going without the band, but still really nice toning and sculpting to the arms, increasing the cardio effort even without that prop in there. Hold that next one down, and we're gonna take the arms wider and then bring it back to start. They're gonna come wider, and that's initiating from in between the shoulder blades at T6 rather than out at the hands. So really think about initiating between the shoulder blades to do that movement. Last two. We're gonna go into that kneeling torso rotation next to finish off the other side. Last one. Go ahead and gather with organization, rise up. We're gonna take that red band right under the knees. One more time, 4 inches apart. Loop the band around the hands and come into prayer position. Melt the shoulder blades down. And we're gonna think about this time before we start, release your booty. Try not to grip with your tush. Inhaling as we spiral the rib basket towards the left, but make sure we're not leaning back. Exhaling as you bring it back to center. So make sure we're not leaning back to compensate for a bigger rotation. You want to keep it all organized. Inhaling as we swivel. Exhale, bring it back to start. Inhaling as we swivel. Exhale, back to start. Just a few more here. I like to think about my left hip, thinking about it drawing forward as I rotate to kind of counteract that desire that it has to track with the rib basket. That really helps me to kind of find that wringing out of a towel sensation in the waistline. Can you guys feel that happening if we get that left hip participating? Last two, inhaling, adding length as we rotate. This is the last one. We stretch next. Inhale and release. All right, we're gonna ditch that red band. Fantastic work. Let's come onto our feet one more time. Let's come into a parallel position about shoulder width. We're gonna take the right arm up and over. The left arm grazes down the outer line of the thigh for a side bend here. Take a nice inhale. And we're gonna rotate the spine up towards the ceiling with your gaze. And then exhale, come back to start. Return the arms. Arms are gonna sweep up and overhead at the same time. Arms come up and overhead for a roll down. We're gonna nod the chin, round the spine, lift from under the belly. This is not the time to ignore the core. We do the core the whole time, rounding down towards the floor. I don't care if you touch the floor. You can end at your shins. That's fine too. Take one breath here, inhaling, broadening the rib basket. Exhaling as the hands come to the shins. And then track the front side of your body with your palms as you slowly rise up. We're thinking about stacking the spaces between the vertebrae as we raise up. The head is the last thing to rise. We're going to do one more arm circle up and overhead. You can follow it and go into a little extension here. Exhale as we return to start, and let's take that side bend on the other side. Right arm stays long, left arm reaches up and over. We're starting with just a side bend, and we'll go the rotation next. Inhale as we gaze upward. Inhaling a positive thought for the rest of your day. As we unwind, exhale some tension out of your day. Return the arms to start, and congratulate yourself on the beautiful job you did. See you next time.